it.
Hello everyone and welcome to WION Live Broadcast. From New York City, I'm Susan Tehrani. First, let's take a look at the stories making headlines this hour. The World Health Organization says more than 400 people have been killed and over 3,500 others have been injured in the fighting in Sudan. Poland resumes the transit of Ukrainian grain and other food through its borders, partially lifting a near week-long ban imposed in response to protests from farmers. China says it firmly opposes Japan's negative moves regarding the Yasukuni Shrine and has made complaints with Japan over Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's ritual offering to the shrine. U.S. Homeland Security would create a task force to figure out how to use artificial intelligence to do everything from protecting critical infrastructure to screening cargo. Muslims around the world are celebrating Eid al-Fitr as the fasting for the holy month of Ramadan draws to a close. The Ukraine Contact Group is meeting once again in Germany to discuss further weapons supply to Kyiv as it plans to launch a counteroffensive soon. Training Ukrainian soldiers on Western tanks was also discussed in the meeting today. Our next report tells you more.
Ukraine is preparing for a spring counteroffensive, even as it continues to fight Russian forces along the front line. Kyiv's Western allies are mobilizing all resources to make sure Ukraine gets what it needs for the offensive.
After more than a year of Russian aggression and deceit, this contact group is as united as ever and more global than ever. And our support for the forces of freedom in Ukraine holds strong and true.
Representatives from 50 countries have gathered in Germany. The Ukraine Contact Group meet is focused on providing air defense, ammunition, and enablers to Kyiv. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has demanded more fighter jets and long-range missiles to help repel Russian troops. Zelensky had put his requests directly to NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. The NATO chief visited Kyiv before heading to the Ramstein airbase for the meeting. The NATO chief also spoke on Ukraine's possible entry in the alliance.
That Ukraine's future is in the Euro-Atlantic family, and all NATO allies have agreed that Ukraine will become a NATO member. But the main focus now is, of course, on how to ensure that Ukraine prevails.
Zelensky had asked for NATO's help to overcome the reluctance of some member states in providing long-range rockets, modern fighter jets, and armored vehicles. NATO members have sent some Soviet-era fighter jets to Ukraine, but no modern planes like the US-designed F-16 have been pledged so far. The reluctance emanates from the concerns that Ukraine may use them to hit targets inside Russia, escalating the situation. Earlier in the week, Ukraine said it had received the first shipment of Patriots, seen as one of the most advanced US air defense systems. Germany also delivered a promised Iris-T anti-air missile system. The kit has been one of Kyiv's key demands from Western allies, as it looks to defend itself from Russian missile attacks. Meanwhile, the Russian attacks continue. Russia struck Kyiv with drones overnight, in the first such attack in almost a month. Although city officials reported no casualties. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Okay, well, for more on this, we are joined by Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, a military expert and senior fellow for defense priorities. He's a retired Army lieutenant colonel with 21 years of service, including 4 combat deployments. Lieutenant Colonel, thank you for your service and welcome to WION. So on Wednesday, the United States also announced a $325 million aid in additional security assistance to Ukraine. President Biden used his Presidential Drawdown Authority, or PDA, which pulls hardware from existing U.S. military stocks. A lot of analysts and a lot of Americans are concerned that the United States is drawing too much from its own military for Ukraine. What are your thoughts?
Well, their concerns are justified. I mean, it's just sheer numbers. You can see that is the case. You've seen that some of the highest ranking Pentagon officials have said for months now that we cannot maintain this pace of continuing to give ammunition and equipment from our existing stocks without causing potential significant harm to our own national security. And you know, we're getting close to the point now where it's just getting way beyond the fat now into the muscle. And of course, we have a number of contracts that have been put in place to try to increase the amount of production for a lot of these key assets with the, anti-tank missiles, anti-air missiles, certainly artillery rounds. But those things take many months and in some cases many years before they actually produce anything in sufficient numbers. So there's going to be a pretty big gap of time to where we're not going to be able to give many more of this stuff without potentially putting our own security at risk. And that's going to cause a lot of people discomfort in the United States.
But Ukraine continues to press allies for long-range weapons, jets, and ammunition, which Ukraine has the right to do. But expectations that Western countries or the United States leading it would supply Ukraine with F-16s that Kyiv wants are slim to none. So on the one hand, we're providing these weapons to Ukraine. But on the other hand, are we giving Ukraine what it needs to win this war?
Look, I've said many times, including on this network, that there is no military path to victory for the Ukraine side. They can increase the price on Russia. They can slow down their advance, which they have certainly done, and kind of, well, they haven't frozen the front line because it continues to go westward. But they certainly have stopped any large-scale movements, at least up to this point. But to actually drive Russia out is a complete separate process, which would require not just a lot, and I mean a lot more Western gear, but also a lot more trained soldiers. And Ukraine just continues to sacrifice, tens of thousands of people, especially in defense of like in the area of Bakhmut and elsewhere in the Donbass area. Those people can't just be replaced by mobilizing more because they have to be trained up. And there's just not enough time. There's not enough equipment to do that. Whereas on the other side of the equation, Russia has more time, and they also have just sheer numbers. They got millions more men from which they could draw. And I just don't see over time how this could play out well in Ukraine's favor.
Retired Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis from Sterling, Virginia. Thank you so much for joining us on WION and for your perspective. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
A Russian warplane opened fire by mistake in the city of Belgorod near Ukraine, causing a large blast which damaged nearby buildings. According to Russian news agency TASS, a Sukhoi Su-34 Air Force plane was flying over the city, and there was an accidental discharge of ammunition. However, the Russian Defense Ministry did not specify which weapon was used. Visuals from the location show a large crater measuring around 20 meters. According to the regional governor, the incident left 2 women injured. Russian defense authorities say a probe is underway. Supersonic U.S. bombers are likely to make an appearance near the India-China border. A pair of U.S. B-1B supersonic heavy bombers will participate at exercise Cope India. It is a joint drill held by U.S. and Indian forces not far from the India-China border. The planes will join the air combat phase of the exercise from April 13th to the 24th at India's Kalai Kunda Air Force Station. The base is located in the eastern state of West Bengal, which borders Bangladesh and Bhutan. It will be the first time for the B-1B launchers to take any part in an exercise in India. It is a long-range multi-mission supersonic conventional bomber, which has served the United States Air Force since 1985, originally designed for nuclear capabilities. The B-1 switched to an exclusively conventional combat role in the mid-1990s. Their participation in drills close to India-China's border will come at a time when tensions are growing between the United States and China, as well as India and China along the border. U.S. President Joe Biden is likely to announce his re-election bid next week, but it won't be a walkover for him if he decides to enter the contest. A Democrat with a household name and a Kennedy surname has recently announced his candidacy, challenging Biden for the top job. At the age of 80, Joe Biden is already the oldest president in the United States, and by the end of a potential second term, he would be 86 years old. According to sources, a campaign video is set to be in production. Top donors have been invited to meet Biden as he drums up support for a run, which could be announced as early as next week. Now, according to reports, the release of the video is expected to coincide with the 4-year anniversary of his 2020 campaign launch. Biden's re-election planning has been underway for months, overseen by two top advisors, Jennifer O'Malley Dillon and Anita Dunn. But even as Team Biden plans to launch his re-election campaign, he is faced with two likely contenders from within his own party. As we mentioned, the heavyweight being Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who announced his bid for the 2024 Democratic presidential nomination on April 19th. He is the son of Robert F. Kennedy Sr., who was assassinated while campaigning for the Democratic presidential nomination in 1968, and the nephew of President John F. Kennedy. He's an environmental lawyer, and during the pandemic, he had opposed vaccine mandates and voiced his opinion against vaccines. But can Robert Kennedy Jr. be considered a strong contender? Well, in a survey taken in the United States, Kennedy enjoyed the support of 14% of voters who backed Joe Biden in 2020, while 67% of Biden's 2020 supporters say they would support him for the Democratic nomination. Apart from Joe Biden and Robert Kennedy Jr., self-help author Marianne Williamson announced her candidacy. She had made the announcement on March 4th in a long-shot primary challenge to Joe Biden. As the President of the United States seeks a second term in office, it remains to be seen if any other Democrat can pose a serious challenge in the race to the White House.
This week,
a U.S. tax special agent claims that he has information on how the Hunter Biden tax probe was hampered by political considerations. He blames preferential treatment and has said that politics has improperly inflicted the decisions of the inquiry. His attorney says that his client is seeking whistleblower protection from Congress to speak out. Congressional Republicans are investigating whether Hunter Biden improperly used family ties in his business dealings. The White House has denied that President Joe Biden had meddled in his son's case or had any information about his son's business dealings. Since 2018, Hunter Biden's taxes and foreign business work have been under federal investigation by a federal grand jury in Delaware. Additionally, his membership on the board of a Ukrainian energy company and his efforts to strike deals in China have long raised questions about whether he traded on his father's public service or not. So far, no charges have been filed. The whistleblower letter comes as House Republicans have opened their own investigation into nearly every facet of Hunter Biden's business dealings. These include examining foreign payments and other aspects of his finances. A 24-year-old Indian student has been shot dead in Ohio, United States. Sesha Veera, hailing from India's Andhra Pradesh, was shot during a robbery attempt at the gas station he was working at. Reports say Columbus police received the call at 12:50 a.m. local time on Thursday, informing them of the incident. He was taken to a hospital in critical condition and succumbed to his wounds soon thereafter. Police say they were reviewing CCTV footage from the store and have released photos of the suspect. Saish was about to complete his master's degree in 10 days. His friends have now set up a fundraiser to collect the amount needed to transport his body to India and provide assistance to his widowed mother. Twitter's iconic blue tick verification symbol has now disappeared from many accounts after a new change came into effect on Thursday. Many high-profile users have also lost their verification, including former President Donald Trump. Just 2 weeks after Elon Musk acquired Twitter, he had announced that the blue verification will be replaced by a paid subscription service. Twitter made an announcement on Wednesday that those who choose not to pay for the subscription will lose their verified status. And as a result, big personalities like Lady Gaga, Beyonce, Kim Kardashian, Justin Bieber, and even Bill Gates lost the infamous blue tick. The verification tick was launched in the year 2009. That aim was to distinguish the authenticity of notable accounts. Many users now say that under new rules, anybody could pay and get a verified symbol, affecting authenticity and trust value, especially at times of emergency. And for journalists, the removal of verified symbols follows a spat between Twitter and various news organizations that have objected to labels of, quote, state-affiliated or government-funded appended to their accounts. Big media names like the New York Times, BBC World Service, the Financial Times, The Guardian have lost their blue tick. Even WION lost its verification once the changes kicked in. Pope Francis's Twitter account also lost the verification mark early Friday, but it was restored back. Thank you so much for staying with us and watching WION Live Broadcast from New York City. I'm Susan Tehrani signing off, but don't go away. More news and headlines coming up only on WION World is One.
Many other